Using collections of items is very common in programming. I may keep track of the clients at my hair salon, my favorite basketball players and their statistics, or earnings data at my company. In any of these cases, I'll want to be able to add, change, or find items in the collection. Let's look at one kind of collection in Python, the list. In Python, we can create a list variable using square brackets. So if I wanted to keep track of my clients, I could create a new list variable like this. Simply with square brackets after the assignment operator. This creates an empty list. But if I wanted to start the list with some initial values, I could add them right into the square brackets separated by commas. So I could write this instead. Clients equals square brackets John, Mary, and so on. By the way, the square bracket notation is short for a longer way of writing it, which could be written like this. Clients equals list. Using square brackets is generally the preferred way of creating the list, so that's what we'll use. But because list is a keyword, if you try to name your variable list like this, and empty brackets, you're going to run into problems. So it's better to think about what kinds of items that you'll be storing in the list and name the list something that describes it. For example, clients, players, or records. Another thing to keep in mind for variable names is that because lists will store more than one item, it is considered good practice to choose a plural noun like clients with an S rather than just calling it client, which might make people think it just refers to a single client. Of course, the computer doesn't care, but this will help me and other people when they are looking at the code. So let's remove the other lines and just stay with the first one. Clients equals an empty list. Now that I have this list, later in my program, if I want to add a client to the list, I can do so with the append method. This is done by using clients.append. Remember that a method is a function that can be used directly on a variable. Append is a list method, so we can use it on a list variable by putting it after the variable name and a dot. And then inside the parentheses, you can include the client you want to add. So let's add John to our client list. And let's add Mary. All right. Now I can print my clients just with the print statement and my clients variable inside. And when I run that, we'll see that my whole list prints out, including the square brackets. So if I want to print my list without the square brackets and one thing at a time, I can use a for loop. So let's use the for loop and print for I in, let's use client actually. Print client. Now when I run it, we'll see one client printed at a time. There we are, John and Mary. If I had more clients in my list, more clients would be printed out. So why would I use the append instead of putting the names right in the square brackets? In this case, I only had 2 clients, so it would make more sense that way. But including them directly in the square brackets only works if I know those values when I write the code. It's more likely I'll be getting those values from the user or a database, and I might be getting them one at a time, in which case using append will be easier. In that case, I might have code like this. Get a new client from the user using input. And then appending to the client's list using the append method and the new client variable. Now let's run this. Notice it's asking for a new client name. I'm going to add in Jerry. Then, when my for loop executed, it printed each client in the list, including Jerry that was appended to it. So now you know the basics of how to create and add things to lists in Python.